This is Part 2 Episode 103. The countless flowing lights behind Huo Yuhao were imprinted on her body along with Huo Yuhao's palm. Instantly, her eyes were no longer bloodshot, and there was only a clear look in her eyes. Her pale white face even started to flush slightly, and she revealed a relieved smile on her face. Thanks. Her voice was no longer hoarse. Instead, it was captivating, as if she came from another world. Huo Yuhao shut his eyes as his tears flowed uncontrollably. He didn't even hear her voice. At this moment, both of them were immersed in their own worlds after a life and death fight. Remembrance is a magical thing. I miss my mommy and daddy. Why did you die so early? Why didn't you protect me? Why did you let that fatso abuse me and leave me humiliated in front of the countless people in that cold basement? They destroyed my body under the instigation of that fatso, ravaging my heart and staining my spirit. I was only 15 years old then. Hatred kept me alive and enhanced my spirit to another level. My spirit of retribution was awakened as a result. I hate those greedy and lecherous men, and I hate that fatso who tore me to pieces. I want to slaughter them, but am in so much pain. Am I finally released? You let me see the light, sense what remembrance is, and witness a love that's yet to appear in my spirit. It seems like not everything in this world is dirty. There are still pure and clean things. Thank you for letting me sense the intense love you have for that unknown person. You cleansed my heart and let me know what release is. Thank you, I'm very happy. Black gas started to flow out of her pores, and she started to age quickly. In an instant, she became very shriveled. As the black gas flowed behind her back, it slowly formed a human shape before it gradually dissipated. Her body slowly collapsed before she began to crumble. Eventually, she turned into a pile of dust and disappeared with the wind. Huo Yuhao was still in his earlier posture after unleashing his palm. It was just that the lights on his body had disappeared, as had the huge heart in the sky. He stood in place without moving a single inch. However, he could still affect everything around him with his emotions. 6 figures silently appeared around him. Every one of them revealed a different look in their eyes. The only similarity between them was the tears that flowed from their eyes. It wasn't just them. Within a region that spanned 1,000 meters in diameter, all living creatures were tearing up. They had all been influenced by Huo Yuhao's emotions. Shu Sancha silently walked behind Huo Yuhao before lifting his rigid body and wiping his tears. He sighed and turned around before he left. The other 5 quickly followed him. Why is it like that? Nan Chocho whispered to Yi Gai. Ads by Pub Future. Yi Gai laughed bitterly. I don't know either. Why is it like that? He actually. Ji Juechen was normally very cold, but there seemed to be great changes to him right now. He seemed lost, and his hands were trembling. Am I wrong? Is it only love that can improve my sword intent to its peak? I gave up all romantic emotions to focus on my cultivation. Was I wrong? Do I really need love too so that I can become stronger? Why do I seem to lag behind you every time I feel that I've surpassed you? Why didn't Huo Yuhao use the strength of his Eye of Destiny to break free from the lock-on of that evil soul master? It was because his original intention was to kill her. If he was discovered and he didn't kill her, they would start a citywide search for them. Furthermore, it was extremely beneficial for them to get rid of such a soul master. With her cultivation, she was likely one of the leaders of the Holy Ghost Church in Sunrise City. That was why Huo Yuhao set a trap to kill her. He drew her over, knowing that his teammates were already hiding in ambush over here. An 8-ringed Soul Doluor was indeed very strong. However, his teammates were some of the most outstanding soul masters in the younger generation too. The Eternal Defense, Shu Sancha, as well as the Origin of Destruction, He Kai too, were both close to rank 70. More importantly, there was Yi Gai, who had the Holy Angel, which could curb evil soul masters. Along with Ji Juechen, Nan Chocho, and Jing Xian, the 7 of them should be highly confident in killing their opponent. Through his spiritual detection, Huo Yuhao had already planned this trap perfectly. His original goal was to use his 3 great skills to restrain his opponent before Ji Juechen and Yi Gai unleashed an all-out attack to deal her a lethal blow. The other 4 would support the 2 of them. However, no one would have expected Huo Yuhao to destroy this extremely strong Soul Doluor who possessed the spirit of retribution using his 3 great skills. She was even considered one of the top-ranked individuals in the Holy Ghost Church. While the spirit of retribution was highly reliant on emotions, which made her susceptible to Huo Yuhao's 3 great skills, the effect of Huo Yuhao's attacks still showed that his 3 great skills were extremely strong. They were terrifying skills that completely exceeded his current cultivation. When the weather changed, his teammates were all already stunned. All of them could clearly sense his love and yearning for Wang Dong. When he unleashed his Haodong palm, he completely destroyed his opponent with his emotions. But his soul power had been completely drained at this instant. This was his first time unleashing this attack that encompassed the true meaning behind his emotions, and it was extremely astonishing. After 15 minutes, the military sealed the region they had fought in. However, they weren't able to find anything. A tall and huge general who was in charge of investigating this situation asked his subordinate, "What happened?" "I don't know either." "Bullshit, the entire city saw what happened earlier. What's with that huge heart in the sky? Why did the weather suddenly change? How dare you tell me that you don't know anything? Do you know how expensive those 3 surveillance soul tools were?" However, nothing really happened. There were no civilian casualties. It's just that an abnormal number of people started to cry within this region. They claimed that they did so because they were touched. Trash, go and investigate further. Yes. In a hotel room. Huo Yuhao was quietly lying on his bed, still in his previous posture. Shu Sanxia stood up from his bedside. "Third senior, how is he?" Nan Chocho asked Shu Sanxia. Shu Sanxia laughed bitterly. "Not bad. He must have unleashed more strength than he could control. Furthermore, imagine how emotionally affected he must be to be able to unleash such a strong undulation of emotions. I know he showed mercy on me when we sparred in the sect. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to handle those first 2 strikes of his, given my current cultivation. Sometimes I wonder why he's so freakish. The strength of his self-created fighting skills has already surpassed that of his soul skills." He Kaitu sighed and said, "Don't be envious of him. Are you willing to exchange Nan Nan for 3 fighting skills?" Shu Sanxia glared at him and said, "Why don't you use yourself as an example?" "Of course I'm not willing to. Nan Nan is special." He Kaitu chortled and said, "All right, she's not here. You don't have to show how loyal you are. When can Yuhao recover?" Shu Sanxia said, "He's in a strange state. His soul power has clearly been drained, but he's recovering at an extremely rapid speed. It's as if he has a milk bottle in his body that's nourishing him. He should recover after resting for a few more hours. It's just that I'm not sure how long his spirit will take to recover. The strength of his skills comes from the connection between his spiritual power and his emotions. I don't think it'll be easy for him to recover from his emotional state, given how invested in his emotions he was earlier. When he wakes up, I'll need to warn him not to use these 3 skills so easily. Otherwise, he'll go crazy." They were all elite students from Shrek Academy. Although they couldn't completely understand what was going on with Huo Yuhao's body, they could roughly gauge what was going on from the state Huo Yuhao was in when he unleashed his 3 great skills and through their understanding of him. He Kaitu turned serious. "Yes, we must stop him from using these 3 skills so often in the future. They are strong, but there's no follow-up, and they affect his emotions too much. I wonder if he'll be able to use these 3 skills if Donga wakes up." Shu Sanxia sighed and said, "These skills are better not used even though they are strong. I hope Donga can wake up sooner and return to his side. Little Junior's life is too bitter." "Yes." He Kaitu nodded in agreement. Yi Gai stood behind all of them and silently watched Huo Yuhao. After that, she turned around and was the first to leave. Nan Chiik was stunned, and quickly followed her out. "Sister Gai, are you alright?" Nan Chocho followed Yi Gai back to their room and asked her concernedly. Yi Gai shook her head gently and said, "I'm fine. I shouldn't have been curious about that guy." Nan Chukia's eyes opened wide, and she asked, "Have you really fallen for him?" Yi Gai remained silent for a moment before saying, "Earlier, I hid my liking for him. He's a complicated fellow. His abilities are far superior to others of the same age. However, I pity him for some reason. He has too many burdens. I don't want to give him more trouble." Nan Chocho was in disbelief. "Sister Gai, have you also fallen into his trap?" "The more you say, the more I feel that." Yi Gai smiled and said, "So what if I've fallen into his trap? I'm willing to fall for such a man. However, I rationally told myself that it's impossible for anything to happen between us. I won't continue to fall further. Do you know? When he unleashed his palm strike earlier, I fell in love with him. However, I also chose to give it up." Nan Chocho smacked her own forehead and said, "Forget it, I can't understand it. However, you must take care of your own heart. Did you see what happened to Wang Chioa? She's in torment because of her love for him. We don't even know where she is now. In his heart, There's only Wang Dong. You mustn't do anything stupid. Huo Yuhao took 2 days to fully recover. He woke up on the second morning, but he was still immersed in his emotions, and couldn't detach himself from them. It took another day before he fully recovered. In these 2 days, the atmosphere in Sunrise City became very tense. There was also a person staying in the hotel that Huo Yuhao and the rest were at. This person was Feng Ling. After drawing the evil soul master away, Huo Yuhao told everyone about Feng Ling's condition through his spiritual detection. After things were more peaceful outside, Jing Xian went to save him. The building that Feng Ling was abused in seemed to only contain the evil soul master that Huo Yuhao had killed. In addition, there weren't any other survivors apart from Feng Ling. Ads by Pub Future. After Feng Ling was brought back, He Kai-tu and Shu Sanxia took turns to watch over him. He was still in a daze now, and wasn't in a right state of mind. What's wrong? Are you okay now? Shu Sanxia asked Huo Yuhao, who was sitting cross-legged on his bed. Huo Yuhao nodded, and there was an apologetic look on his face. Third senior, I'm sorry. Shu Sanxia laughed and said, there's no need to be apologetic. Although you shouldn't have lost control since you were commanding all of us, it was a special situation. That evil soul master was of the rare spiritual type. I asked Yi Gai too. She said she wasn't confident of curbing her either. She was an 8-ringed soul Doluor, and thus it was right for you to unleash all your strength against her. It's just that you don't understand yourself well enough. You must keep this in mind. The side effects of your attacks are too strong. From the look in your eyes, I can tell that you are not fully clear-headed yet. All right. Huo Yuhao nodded. Just like Shu Sanxia had said, his mind had yet to fully recover. Occasionally, Wang Dong's figure would flash across his mind. That evil soul master would have been extremely deadly if she had unleashed all her strength. She had her self-created fighting skill that caused my spiritual sea to be affected. After that, I lost control of my emotions when I unleashed my fighting skill because of that too. Otherwise, the strength of my 3 skills shouldn't have been so great, and I would have been able to control my body after I finished attacking. At least I'll be able to move. I'll take note in the future. Shu Sanxia sounded very earnest as he said, Yuhao, it's best to use your 3 skills less often. They are indeed very strong, but their influence on you is also very great. In my opinion, they are the products of your lovesickness. You can't rely on them too much. Otherwise, your own abilities will fall significantly once Donga awakes, along with the fact that these 3 skills will disappear. Huo Yuhao shuddered in his heart. He knew that Shu Sanxia was right. If Wang Donga was by his side right now, would he be able to use those 3 skills? Definitely not. They were built on his remembrance of Wang Donga, as well as his yearning for her. Not to even mention Wang Donga appearing beside him, he wouldn't be able to use those 3 skills if he heard Wang Donga had awoken. After nodding his head, Huo Yuhao said, Third senior, how's Feng Ling? After he mentioned Feng Ling, Shu Sanxia suddenly revealed a weird look on his face. That he coughed. Huo Yuhao was confused and asked, what's wrong? Shu Sanxia sighed and replied, that evil soul master was simply too sick in the mind. Feng Ling is completely crippled. He suffered from a strong curse-type soul skill, and was even castrated. He was also fed some unknown medicine, and his chest has developed like a woman's. Has neither a guy nor a girl. I suspect that he was kept to disgust people. Ads by Pub Future. After hearing what Shu Sanxia said, Huo Yuhao recalled what that evil soul master mentioned earlier, especially what she said before she died. While Huo Yuhao was immersed in his remembrance of Wang Donga then, he still remembered what that evil soul master said to him. His expression turned serious as he recalled what she said now. That evil soul master was also a poor soul. She turned evil because of hatred. She disregarded everything because of her desire for revenge. She didn't realize that she was making more people suffer like she did before by venting her pain on others. Let's go and take a look at Feng Ling and see if there's a way of saving him. Huo Yuhao followed Shu Sanxia to a single room. He Kai-tu was standing at the door, and he also wore a weird expression on his face. It seemed like he was unwilling to enter the room. Yuhao, are you fine now? After seeing Huo Yuhao, He Kai-tu went over to pat his shoulder. Second senior, I'm fine. How's Feng Ling? He Kai-tu replied, has still in a daze. Huo Yuhao entered the room. When he saw Feng Ling, he couldn't help but sigh. His clothes were torn and damaged in several areas, revealing his flesh and the whip marks on his body. His hair extremely messy, and only his thick lips were striking. After seeing someone enter, he immediately squirmed to the side of his bed. His whole body was trembling. Huo Yuhao walked to his bedside and tried his best to tolerate his stench. Fengling, do you still remember me? We met outside Radiant City before. From the web. Powered by Zergnet. The truth about the two broke girls cast is so sad. Hackman and his wife's home will make your stomach churn. The tragedy of the porn stars guy is so heartbreaking to hear. You after seeing Huo Yuhao, Fengling appeared to be in a daze, and was stunned. He seemed to recall something. Did you call my name that day? Yes, it's me. Huo Yuhao gently released his spiritual power as he spoke. He stimulated Fengling's brain. This stimulation was similar to his spiritual shock, but it was only a fraction of the strength of his spiritual shock. This slight stimulation helped Fengling out of his confused state. Fengling's eyes turned clearer. Oh, who are you? Who are you? Huo Yuhao smiled and replied, I'm Huo Yuhao. I'm here to save people like you who have been captured. Do you know where the rest are? After hearing his question, Fengling's body jerked, and there was a look of fury in his eyes along with the confusion. No worries. Take your time to think and remember. Huo Yuhao's voice became gentler, but he released stronger spiritual power. Under Huo Yuhao's stimulation, Fengling started to experience fury, fear, confusion, and torment, as well as other emotions. He opened his mouth, revealing his set of yellow teeth, and released his stinky breath. Huo Yuhao had no choice but to form a layer of icy fog to isolate his breath. After a while, Fengling started bawling as he sprawled himself on his bed. She harmed me. She harmed me and turned me into a woman. She turned me into a woman. I'm no longer a man. She abused me every day. She hit me every day to vent. She even forced me to work as a madam at that dirty place. My life was worse than death. Huo Yuhao stood up and didn't make a sound. He only watched Fengling vent his emotions silently. He sighed in his heart as he empathized with Fengling. However, he was sure of one thing: Fengling didn't mean it when he said his life was worse than death. He definitely had the ability to commit suicide. Compared to what he had suffered, he was more unwilling to die. It was only when Fengling's crying slowed that Huo Yuhao tried to comfort him. All right, it's all in the past. Everything will become better. That person who harmed you has already been killed by me. She won't abuse you or harm you anymore. Try to clear your mind and think of where those who were captured with you are being kept. Fengling rubbed the tears off his face. They are all being held captive in a water prison. A water prison? Huo Yuhao asked doubtfully. Fengling nodded. At this point, he seemed much more normal. This water prison is located underneath a moat to the south of the city. It was constructed following the flow of the moat. Everyone is immersed in water, and they are all very weak now. An enlightened look flashed across Huo Yuhao's eyes. No wonder he couldn't detect it earlier. He hadn't expected the hostages to be held captive in such a place. How many hostages are there? Are their jailers all evil soul masters? Huo Yuhao asked. Fengling asked, I don't know how many people are being held captive there. However, evil soul masters took a few of them away. I was one of them. The evil soul master who took me has already killed a few people. A few others committed suicide. As he spoke until this point, he started to shudder uncontrollably again. He Kai-Tu and Shu San's his expressions changed. The hostages were in a worse situation than they had thought, which made their rescue mission much more difficult. Huo Yuhao asked Fengling a few more questions, but it was obvious that Fengling's state of mind had declined once again, as his words became very unclear. The information that they obtained only consisted of what Fengling had revealed earlier. However, it was still very valuable to the Tang sect. At least they knew where the hostages were behind held. Indeed, they were being watched by evil soul masters. In this way, they had a direct target for their upcoming mission. After exiting Fengling's room, Huo Yuhao immediately gathered his teammates for a meeting. After this, he recounted what Fengling had said to him earlier. We must start planning our rescue mission. Let me give my suggestion before all of you add on. Huo Yuhao couldn't be bothered with remaining hidden anymore, given the crisis they were experiencing in Sunrise City. A missing evil soul master was bound to alert the Holy Ghost Church. This was why they had to act as soon as possible. According to Huo Yuhao's estimation, the fight near the border over these few days was becoming more intense. They had the biggest chance of success if they exploited this opportunity to rescue the hostages. This was because the Holy Ghost Church was likely to send some strong soul masters to supplement their forces at the border. We have limited people and resources. That's why we can't do everything. From what Fengling has told us, the Holy Ghost Church has already started to lay their hands on the hostages. A portion of the hostages were even taken to a different place, and we all know what will happen to them. Even if there are survivors, I'm afraid their lives are like a living hell. We can only give up on this portion of the hostages. Huo Yuhao looked very stern as he said this, and his tone also sounded very determined. Nan Chocho stood up and glared at him furiously. Her eyes seemed to be on the verge of spewing fire. "Sit down," Huo Yuhao shouted. His voice didn't sound very loud, but it had an indescribable might to it. Along with the fact that he had killed a Sol Doluor on his own, Nan Chocho turned pale when he shouted at her, and she sat down uncontrollably. "I know what you want to say. Chocho, I know you don't want anything to happen to your mother, but you have to know that our overall abilities can't compare to the Holy Ghost Church. The Academy only sent us here because we aren't obvious targets. That's why we can only do what we are capable of. If we successfully rescue most of the hostages and your mother isn't among them, I promise you that he'll stay with you until we find her. However, we need to save the majority first." Nan Chocho was stunned, and silently lowered her head. She knew that this was the best Huo Yuhao could do. With his immense spiritual power, it was also the most effective if he remained with her to search for her mother. Right now, she could only pray that her mother was with the majority of the hostages. While she was a proud lady, she wasn't unreasonable. Ads by Pub Future. Seeing that he had convinced Nan Chocho, Huo Yuhao turned to the rest and continued, saying, "I'll immediately survey the region Fengling mentioned, and I'll try to sneak in. While I get some first-hand information, all of you must be prepared to take action. Second Senior, you can start our arrangements over here. Whatever you need me to set up, you can separate and pass to me. I'm confident of leaving and entering the city without being detected." He Kaitu nodded. "Third Senior, you are adept at controlling water. You should follow me to the water prison and reinforce me." "All right." Shu Sancha nodded as well. Although they were older than Huo Yuhao, they treated him as their leader right now. This was extremely wise, considering that they were in a dangerous place right now, and it was pertinent for them to have a common voice. "Sister Xian, starting from now, install the items that I passed to you earlier at the north region of the city when it's dark. These high-altitude surveillance soul tools are the least effective at night. However, you must still remain careful. If you are discovered, you must immediately escape. If possible, try to install as many as possible. They will provide us with opportunities during our mission." "All right, count on me." Jing Xian gave Huo Yuhao a thumbs up to signal that she understood. She was given this role because of the abilities of her fog. She could turn into fog and escape anytime she wanted. Compared to the rest, she could make the safest escape. Huo Yuhao then turned to Ji Juechen. "Brother Ji, you are in charge of reinforcing Sister Xian. You must guarantee her safety." He nodded coolly. Huo Yuhao's gaze finally landed on Nan Chocho and Yi Gai. "The two of you will remain in the hotel and guard Fengling. Also, please protect Second Senior as he sets everything up." Yi Gai was a little displeased. "Do you need both of us to remain here to guard one person? Going to the water prison will be very dangerous. I can tag along as extra reinforcement." Huo Yuhao didn't completely trust Yi Gai and Nan Chocho yet. They had both just joined the Tang sect and there were still many things that they were not completely sturdy in. In the face of a crisis, it was very difficult to tell what kinds of abilities they would unleash. However, Yi Gai's holy angel was still very important. It was an effective weapon against evil soul masters. After pondering for a moment, Huo Yuhao nodded and said, "All right. Chocho will remain here, while Gai will follow me and Third Senior. Let's go." Ads by Pub Future. Time was not on their side. For now, the Sun Moon Empire was more focused on their borders. While the water prison was under the protection of the Holy Ghost Church, the security of this prison wouldn't be as tight as compared to before. Furthermore, Huo Yuhao and the rest didn't have to risk their lives to fight their enemies. According to Fengling's description, the water prison was beneath the city's moat at the south wall. However, Huo Yuhao didn't leave the city to survey it. Without a doubt, the strength of the surveillance soul tools above this moat were bound to be the strongest. If he used his spiritual power to seal his soul power, he couldn't use his imitation. However, he couldn't openly try to enter the prison either. As a result, Huo Yuhao, Shu Sancha, and Yi Gai didn't leave the city. Instead, they proceeded to the south wall from inside the city. Sunrise City wasn't very big, but the three of them still needed to make a slight detour before they got close to the south wall. In the hotel, Nan Chocho was bored as she guarded Feng Ling. After he ate, he fell asleep. As she sat in a chair, there was a worried look in her eyes. She kept on praying for her mother, and hoped that she was fine. She also knew that Huo Yuhao didn't bring her along because of her unstable state of mind. It was evidently an accurate decision to leave her behind. However, she was extremely anxious. In the room, Feng Ling unwittingly let out a few groans as he flipped his body around while sleeping. Suddenly, his body jerked, and a trace of dark red light flashed above his nose. Nan Chocho naturally didn't see this, as she was outside the room. After the dark red light flashed, he soon became normal again. His body turned rigid for a moment before he relaxed and continued sleeping. In another room, which was also the largest room that they had booked in this hotel, He Kai-tu was busy setting everything up. Every corner of the roof was stuck with starfish-shaped soul tools. There was a red spot of light at the center of each starfish-shaped soul tool, and they were slowly flashing. They were called surveillance interference soul tools, newly invented by Shen Ziwen. They were targeted towards all types of surveillance soul tools, and were able to shield against the effects of most surveillance soul tools apart from thermal detectors. They were especially useful against soul power detectors, and the only problem was that each of them only covered a limited area. This was why many of them had to be used at the same time. Right now, any soul power undulations that came from this room couldn't be detected by the surveillance soul tools outside, no matter how many of them there were. As for thermal detectors, they were extremely rare and huge. They couldn't be used on the streets for a patrol. Even if they could be carried around on the streets, what good would they do even if they detected people in the hotel? The Tang sect was extremely prepared this time before they set off. To ensure their safety, Bei Bei and Shen Ziwen had used up every resource that the Tang sect had. Shen Ziwen even wanted to hand everything to them. He Kai-tu was installing an extremely huge soul tool right now. It had a hexagonal base, and the top of it was carved with many complicated patterns. There were circular, protruding parts on the sides of the hexagonal base. Each side had 4 circular protruding parts. On a closer look, every circular part was actually a formation array. This meant that there were 24 formation arrays on this hexagonal base. Above the hexagonal base was an oval-shaped metal ball that resembled an egg. This metal ball was able to turn freely on the hexagonal base. The major axis of this ball was around 2 meters long, while its minor axis was around 1 meter and 20 centimeters long. There were complicated patterns carved on the entire ball, and whole thing actually looked like a huge, completed formation array. After He Kai-tu cautiously installed it, his forehead was already dripping with perspiration. After this, he installed a total of 24 Class 6 sealed milk bottles into the base. He Kai-tu seemed slightly intoxicated as he caressed the flowery patterns on this huge ball. He muttered to himself, a complete Class 8 soul tool, and it's even close to a Class 9 soul tool. Furthermore, it's used for auxiliary purposes. No matter what, I must bring this treasure back. Otherwise, Teacher Shen will kill me. When little Junior is back, we can adjust its position. We are at the north of the city, which is a very suitable location for this soul tool to be used. Hee. Let me add a few other accessories, and let it bloom when they come. This video will end here.